An hour and a half. I think you texted me something that was meant to go to someone else.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to my wife, Amelia.
Yeah.
She's out at the park with the kids right now.
You sent it. You sent that message to me.
See, that's how nervous I am. Sending you a text that should have gotten to my wife.
That's solid.
That works. Solid.
Yeah, that works.
Usually she...
Good morning, afternoon, and or evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us. As always, we are your hosts, the Genesius guys. I'm Nick.
Filling in for Kyle, I'm Seth.
And I'm John.
And we're three Catholic dudes who love to talk about movies. This is the Genesius podcast. So, WWE is a pretty big thing, I hear, right?
Yeah.
Well, our guest today just got into it. So, Brian Hayna, without further ado, welcome.
Thank you,
for the first
Nick.
time
Yes.
to the Genesius
Welcome.
podcast.
I appreciate it. Yes.
Yeah.
Standing ovation. They're all standing here if you guys can't see. Just kidding. It's a lie.
Do
I sound good, by the way?
Yeah, you sound
Do I
great.
change my
Yeah.
voice and act like I'm on a podcast and have a different voice?
No,
I don't know how this works.
We just talk normally.
But you guys have a really good podcast voice when I've heard you, and I'm like,
Oh.
that's part of the intimidation is because I got to work on mine.
Hey, you're
down.
not doing so bad yourself so far.
Yeah, you know,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I take the Western dude bro approach. Like, we just speak and feel good, man.
man.
We're just like,
We're just regular dudes.
we're just regular dudes.
are,
We like to
man.
drink beer.
I mean,
As
that
we're
is
definitely
that
not
is something,
drinking beer right now.
but we have done that on the show.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah. No,
Amongst other alcoholic beverages. And this
Spike-
time not.
yeah, this
Yeah.
time's not alcoholic. Yeah.
So
It's pretty good.
we were drinking Nick's Prize.
Yeah, it's actually, it is
true.
Nick's prize from the murder mystery party. Yeah, I typically Kyle's here and he's pretty into the non-alcoholic stuff, but he couldn't make it today. He decided to join an a cappella group.
Ooh.
Oh.
He strikes me as the kind of guy who would join.
I was gonna say I could see him doing that.
I could see it. Yeah, I think it would be pretty good.
Good for him.
Yeah,
Good for him.
really branching out
Well,
into the world.
well, we hope he shows up next time. All right, so Brian, this is your debut. Now, this is your debut presence, but we have mentioned you before
Oh,
on this show.
I almost think
How
from
many
episode
times? I don't know.
At
Hopefully
least
just-
once. At least once.
Yeah. I think it was right after we played you, Nick. Seth and I played your team, and
You were.
I mean, I don't. How do I say this nicely? We obliterated your team. I
Yes,
think we
you
did. Yeah.
Yes, you did.
And I think I personally got you out like 7 times.
It's 'cause
how
you
you
kept-
got 7
you
at bats.
kept-
I don't know, but you did, and I got you out every time.
Well, and to be fair, it was one of the few times during the season we obliterated anyone.
that's true.
Yes,
That's
it was
very true. So that one is fresh in my mind. I'm gonna remember that one.
Yeah, but you were a shout out since day one. I remember doing Book of Eli, right? We were talking
was the
about all
one.
the softball stuff. and
Yeah.
yeah. We started just name dropping people, and Brian, you were one of the first people
Yeah.
I name dropped.
So it's a big deal that you're here.
I'm honored, and hopefully I can come back more.
We would love to have you back on.
We'll see how this goes first.
Yeah,
though.
we gotta-
We'll see if
it's
you
an
guys,
audition.
Meet my expectations first.
We'll see if we let you into the Genesius Bellas. Okay.
That was a beautiful.
It's a little drop right
Wow.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
come here.
It's a little nugget.
beautiful.
If you've ever been listening to Father Mike's Catechism in a year, he always dropped like little
the
nugget
nuggets.
things.
Yeah.
yeah,
Nuggets.
little nugget
and
things.
not chicken nuggets.
No,
He
not
does
that.
specifically.
Catholic nuggets.
He does specifically clarify that he does not drop chicken nuggets.
That's true. Yes.
Father Mike
That
Schmitz,
would
we
be a
hope you're
waste
listening.
if you dropped chicken nuggets.
Would Father Mike Schmitz listen to us?
I highly doubt that.
Maybe.
Look, for how often we promote it, I'm sure it'll get to him eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, Father
It
Mike.
definitely will.
Father Mike, if you want to be on the show,
Oh, please let us know.
please let us know.
Please let us know. We'd love to
Yes,
have you on.
That'd be great. But yes, if you haven't caught my references, Brian, what are we talking about? What have you asked us to talk about today?
Before we get to that,
Okay.
I know we've only got out
Yeah.
WWE. That was my fun
Yeah,
fact.
yeah,
We haven't
yeah.
gotten-
Yeah, that's true. We should get into
Nick
that a
asked
little
me for a
bit.
fun fact, and I said WWE. I recently got into it. It's awesome. I love it, and everyone says it's fake. okay, fine, whatever. But
Yeah, but getting hit with a chair is still gonna hurt,
it's
even
gonna
if it's
hurt.
fake.
Thank you, John. Yes, and the athleticism of these guys is incredible. And there's this guy, I'm his biggest fan, and he's not this big. He's not like one of the big names that you would know.
Sure.
His name is L.A. Knight. I have to give him a shout out, whether he listens to it or not. That's my guy.
Okay,
And he's
okay.
not that good. He loses almost every time, but he has the biggest mouth out of anybody. It's hilarious. I love it.
So you're saying you're his biggest fan because you can relate to him.
I can relate. He's got the biggest mouth.
The one thing that, like, I mean, credit is where credit is due, right? Like, the thing is, they train so much with like doing their own stunts, right? It's
Yeah,
basically
true.
it's like a huge stunt show.
Yep.
Because, like, for instance, like The Rock going from WWE to film, like, it was really easy for him to do any kind of like stunt work.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
was just like,
But
why
there's
not?
that,
I've
but
done
that-
this so many times.
But then there's also the mic work and the telling of the story. That's also part of it too. And this LA Knight guy is a
Is he usually a
machine.
bad guy or something?
Yes, he's a villain and he loves it.
So
he
like
tells the crowd to shut up all the time. And
so they tell stories based on wrestling match. Like how
Yeah.
does that work? That's the one thing that I've always been a little confused about.
Well, it's probably like a superhero, right?
I've-
Like, where it's like you have the hero, you have the villain.
Well,
then
and
they just go
I've always
fight.
likened it to like a reality show, right? Where there are personalities.
yeah.
I've never seen it myself, but every time I've watched clips of it, I get the sense that it is very much a reality show, and these are personas. Because when you look at reality shows, the people that are on them are essentially caricatures of themselves, right?
I see.
In a lot of ways,
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
have to make it interesting for people to watch it. I mean, Survivor is like probably the most famous example of this. If you've ever seen Survivor, I'm getting a lot of
Oh, yeah.
nods from
Yep.
Brian here. I watched many seasons.
I
of that
applied to
show.
be on that show. So
Did you really?
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
How many times?
just once.
That's you send it in, you see what happens, shoot your shot.
You're still young. Keep
Nothing
trying.
happened. Oh no, I'm way too old for that. Those guys are all in their 20s now. They'll
Dude,
have,
I've
they'll
seen,
have
So
like-
wait. Am I not the oldest part here then?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Oh. No,
I
John's
do-
still the
John-
oldest here.
No,
John's the oldest. Yes,
John's the
thank you.
oldest,
I don't,
yes.
I don't know how old you are. We don't
Yeah.
have a list of the name.
I dare not disrespect our guest. John's the oldest
No,
here.
no, we could bring someone in their 60s and John will still be the old fart.
Yeah, yep.
But I would have to be the. I'd have to be the token old guy on Survivor at this point. They always have the token old guy on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, see, so you're not too old. You could
You
do
wouldn't
it.
get eliminated first, but you would go around mid-season, I think. And you would go and everyone would be like, the legend leaves. And you're like, they treat the old dude with respect,
Yes.
right? And he finally gets voted out. They're like, we're sorry. We
Yep.
had to let you go.
You were gonna win. We had to get you out of here before you got that far.
You were just
too
the
much
coolest guy.
experience.
You were the coolest guy. You always went to the coconut bar and had coconut water with all of us.
Okay, but they also have those seasons where it's like they'll eliminate them and then somehow they will come back on. It's like most superhero movies where someone dies and then they come back to life.
Well, and I know they had like heroes and villains too, right? There's one example in my mind of Russell. There's a guy, Russell, who is like one of the best villains in Survivor history, who ended up being on multiple seasons just because he was such like a chaotic guy. He's always hunting for the idols, the like hidden immunity idols to like avoid elimination. And just the dude was
Is he like ruthless?
he was ruthless. That's a good word.
Ruthless Russell.
That's
Ruthless
great
Russell.
TV too.
Yeah, it was fantastic TV. That was like the show at its peak for me.
Yep.
I haven't watched it in several years, but
Yeah, my family is really into Survivor. My mom especially like gets really into it.
So isn't it like 40 seasons in or something?
At least.
They're on
'Cause they don't
44,
do-
the 44th season
44.
right now.
Wow.
I don't care anymore.
Survivor is
You
almost
don't follow it religiously?
It had its time.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And it's
Yep.
done.
Yep.
guys,
That's like-
Survivor's almost as old as Star Wars.
Oh.
Well,
Wait, no.
the thing is, the seasons aren't a full
Star
year.
Wars will be 50 years old in about 4 years. That's not a joke.
Yeah, but Survivor started in 2000, I think, or 2001.
Yeah.
And
So they
they've had
do like
Oh, I
multiple
see.
seasons a
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how
Oh,
they can get so
I see.
high.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
but,
makes
but like
sense.
for instance, like The Simpsons.
That's true. The Simpsons,
Yeah,
it's like in their season like 30 something.
but anyway.
Yeah.
What are we here for?
That's a jazz standard. It's called What Am I Here For? No,
Yeah.
we're here to talk about Pitch Perfect,
At the request of our guest, Brian Hanna.
Yes.
Yeah, what could be furthest from WWE than a cappella singing?
I'm not ashamed of
Hey,
it.
man, there might be a way to work a cappella singing into WWE.
Maybe I can have that character and be that person.
Yes,
You're going to be the one. You're going to be like the one overlap of the Venn diagram.
yeah.
It's just Brian Hanna.
You're backed by a bunch of other muscular dudes doing barbershop. They always wear ties. They're like shirtless, but they always wear ties and everything.
So one understanding I have now. Brian, we have a number of mutual friends, and
One or two. Yep.
at least one or two, and there are a couple in particular that said that they were surprised you didn't come on for a Zac Efron movie.
Who said that?
Shooty said that for one.
Shooty. There goes Shooty running his mouth again.
Well, what would you have come on for a Zac Efron movie?
100%.
Which one?
Absolutely.
Throw me some. 17
Yeah,
again.
give
High
us
School
some.
Now
Musical.
you're putting me on High School Musicals. Okay, you know
Okay,
that
fair
was
enough.
a big like count. You know,
Yeah.
17
Neighbors?
again.
No, I mean I like the new Zac Efron. Bad Grandpa. No. Baywatch. No. What do I? The Greatest Showman. That's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Fair enough.
actually really
That's
good.
what
at
it
that
would
one.
be.
We will
I would-
we will
yeah.
keep you in mind
Yeah.
when we get around to
That was
doing that
great.
one.
Another singing movie. Look at me.
Well, you were just mentioning High School Musicals.
I know. Well, I saw that one. I was like, it's
Well,
okay.
Greatest Showman was really interesting to me because when they'd switch from like the acted, like scripted stuff, the drama into the songs, there was a marked difference in the audio quality. In terms of like it sounded like you went from a dialogue audio, like the dialogue audio that was recorded on set, to suddenly they threw on like a music track, like a music file that was just mastered completely differently than the dialogue audio. And so when I'm watching this and it would just transition into like different microphones, like the change in audio is obvious from when they're talking and when they start singing.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah. It's very, very interesting touch. And from what I understand, it was the director's debut film.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Which is like impressive.
Yeah, phenomenally
Yeah.
done. I mean, it really was.
Yeah.
Was Pitch Perfect Jason Moore's directorial debut?
That's a great question. Let me check.
Segueing back into the show.
Segueing back into.
But if we come across a Zac Efron movie, we'll keep you in mind. Because we know you're his biggest fan.
Number one biggest fan. Zac Efron, if you're listening, I am.
There's just like a ton of teenage women, and then there's just Brian.
Well, here
So
I am married. I have two wonderful kids. I swear.
Hey,
I just
they
think
will,
you're a good
beautiful
singer.
hey, they'll like join you in the Zac Efron fandom.
They already do.
Oh,
in.
see, we're off to a good start.
Yeah.
Now it's actually how you your wife met. Was that like a
Zac Efron movie. We did watch The Greatest Showman together, and I did say Zac Efron's great. He's great in this. And so she knows my appreciation.
So
That's how she knew you were the one.
So in that,
Well, yeah, probably.
so you would say Zach is the star of that movie versus Hugh?
I mean, Hugh's great. Don't get me wrong. Like they're both great, but you know, Zach is just more he's more relatable for guys like me because he's like our age, and I don't know. I feel like he's grown so much. He's grown in front of our eyes, and Hugh Jackman.
He's come a long way
Hugh
from
Jackman's
his
great,
awkward
though.
High School Musical days.
Yes, agreed. Yes.
Hugh Jackman's also Wolverine, though.
Yeah, I
so-
mean that's why it's hard to.
Yeah, not only is Hugh Jackman the person maybe a little less relatable, I think his body is a little less relatable
Yeah.
too. Like he's on another level, right?
Well, Zac Efron's body though too.
Yeah, depending on the context. Yeah.
This is a really weird conversation.
With four dudes.
This is already
talking Pitch Perfect.
this is already great.
Yeah, the funny thing is the Thor episode that we just recorded, we were talking about, we had like a 3-minute segment on his abs. We definitely
I think in general we're just all a little jealous.
Yeah, that's probably part of it. Yeah.
as long as it don't
Probably.
but that takes a lot of effort, honestly, to get that way, and that's not for
I mean
regular
that's
people.
their full-time job is to work out.
Yeah, they work out
And
for
act,
7 months,
yeah.
and
It's
then the
unrealistic.
director's like, "Are you okay with being shirtless?" Like, I just trained for 7 months. Yes, I'm going to be shirtless. So
I would prefer.
Shirtless the entire movie for no reason.
I've worked out so
People
much
just don't
shirts are
even-
uncomfortable.
So yeah, I do have an answer for you, by the way. Jason Moore,
All right.
this was his film debut. He did television before that. So he did some Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So he doesn't have a particularly extensive filmography or television directorial thing, but he's got some stuff in there. But this was, I think, his first Hollywood film.
Okay.
So that makes sense. Yeah, written by Kay Cannon. I think Elizabeth Banks was executive producer on this film as well.
Yes, she was.
Yeah, release date October 5th, 2012, with a budget of $17 million and a box office of 115.4. So probably definitely made its money back.
Absolutely made its money back. According to Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it an 81, audience gave it an 83. And they say Pitch Perfect's plot is formulaic, but the performances are excellent and the musical numbers are toe-tapping as well.
Agreed.
There we go.
And John, would you like another shot at the
Sure.
USCCB?
Campus musical in which a college student, Anna Kendrick, joins an all-female a cappella group that's on track to compete in an annual competition. Along the way to the singing showdown, she clashes with the ensemble's traditionally minded leader, Anna Camp, and finds romance with a fellow music lover, Skylar Aston.
Yep, that's great.
Despite his membership in a rival all-male band of warblers. Their director, Jason Moore's multi-melody romp maintains a generally pleasing tone, some salty language,
Saltly?
and a lax outlook on premarital sexuality bar recommendations for youngsters, implied non-marital relationships, adult themes, and references, including to aberrant sexuality, a few uses of profanity, occasional crude and crass language, and an obscene gesture.
Rated A3 for adults
Yeah.
from USCCB.
I think I mostly made it through that one.
Is that good or bad? I don't think compare the two.
I'm mildly surprised it's not O.
I kind of was too.
Yeah. So, is that like one step below?
So to kind of break it down for Brian, so the USCCB has different levels of how they rate movies, like kind of just mostly based on like the content and like some of its messages and whatnot. So you have like A1, which is for like everyone. So that's like that's like most like kiddie like Disney animated movies. Well, I would say from like the Renaissance era, more than now, and then A2 is kind of like a general audience, not necessarily for everyone, but a general audience for like adults and adolescents. And then A3 is like for adults. And then the next level I think is L, which is for a more limited
that's right.
audience.
Yeah.
And then there is an O level, which stands for morally offensive.
Okay. So we didn't get to that morally offensive part.
No,
So
but we have gotten there on this podcast.
Yeah.
actually.
So to be clear, Breakfast Club got an O.
which is a reference in Pitch Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a huge
Yeah.
reference.
I'm mildly
Oh,
surprised
wow.
because you have similar weird things going on here that are morally
Yeah,
objectionable. So I'm surprised that this just got an A3
It's true.
because there's
There wasn't any drugs in this one.
there's no
right?
drugs, but I would think
a lot of the things that are more present in Breakfast Club are implied in this movie.
yeah.
I think that's why this one got a bit of a friendlier rating.
Yeah, because it says implied non-marital
Yeah, yep.
relationship. So it's
Yeah, well, but there's some pretty overt like sexual discussion in here that I'm surprised is not just like admittedly was like offensive to me watching it, right? I was like,
yeah,
oh my
okay,
gosh, right?
Yeah.
There are definitely certain moments in this where I just like, you kind of do that thing, and listeners, you won't be able to see my face, but like you just kind of like sit back and you just like, stare at the screen with that weird like,
did
what?
that just happen?
Did I just listen to that?
And was that really necessary to say
Yes.
it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a lot
Agreed.
of
There's
that.
a couple of those for sure. I won't dispute that. I'll say a couple.
We can say a couple. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I can jump into the synopsis here.
Let's do it.
And
Ooh,
yeah.
this looks longer than
It is a little bit longer. It's kind of hard. There's a lot of different details going on here. So I'm going to
It's
do
a
my
good
best.
thing. Long. Very
Yes.
long.
So
Means he liked it, I think, right?
I mean, he did say formulaic previously.
Anyways,
so.
go ahead, Seth. I'm curious to hear what your
all right,
thoughts.
Pitch Perfect.
Well, you'll get his thoughts later.
I'm just so excited to hear his thoughts about it.
Yes.
He's
Oh.
been hiding it from me.
So, for Pitch Perfect, in a world where collegiate acapella reigns supreme, the all-female Barden Bellas of Barden University seem forever destined to fall second place to their male counterparts, the Barden Treblemakers.
Treble.
Incoming freshman Becca Mitchell arrives on campus, hoping to spend her spare time building her DJ career, interning with the school radio station and getting to know fellow freshman intern Jessie Swanson, but she is ultimately compelled into auditioning for the struggling Barden Bellas. She makes the cut along with a cast of unique personalities, but finds herself at odds with the group lead Aubrey Posen, who micromanages the group in the hopes of redeeming the prior season's loss, primarily resulting from the fact that Aubrey vomited on stage during the finals performance. As time passes, Becca and Jessie develop feelings that they cannot resolve since Jessie's placement in the Troublemakers marks him unofficially off limits to the Bella singer. At the regionals a cappella competition, the Bellas perform the same set from the previous season, but do well enough to place second to the Troublemakers once again. Though they advance to the semifinals as a result, an incident with the Troublemakers and an alumni-run a cappella group causes a run-in with the law, ultimately resulting in Becca straining her relationship with Jessie and her father, who happens to be a professor at Barden, who already disapproves of her passion for DJ work. During the semifinals, Becca's frustration with the Bella's stale routine causes her to improvise an addition to the set during their performance, prompting Aubrey's open contempt. And despite Jessie's attempt to back her up, Becca rejects him and walks out on the Bellas, who only advanced to the finals on a technicality. The team that beat them secretly featured a high school singer, so they were disqualified. When Becca later attempts to make amends with Jessie, he rejects her due to her pushing him away. She then apologizes to the Bellas, who proceed to have a heart-to-heart with each other. Aubrey gives up her leadership to Becca, and they work on a new set. After an adventure traveling to the finals, the Bellas win the competition with a stunning performance that also functions as a subtle apology from Becca to Jessie, and the two reconcile. 6 months later, Becca and the Bellas hold auditions for new members.
Well done.
That is the movie.
There you go.
You know-
that was nice and quick.
Yeah, I just went through.
Boom.
It looked long, but just rattle through it. I want to start out here. Brian, I know you at least a little bit, right? I've worked under you. We were on a great team together, and I just wanted to ask you this question because I was curious. Aka, why?
Excuse me? Just kidding. That's fine. So I'm glad you asked.
Yes.
So there's this whole story behind how I got so into it. So,
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, for sure. So I was living with my two brothers, 3 single guys. Okay.
One second. Just
We got to make sure we hear this. Thank you. So, 3 single guys living together. And, it was like a Saturday morning. I get up whenever I got up, and my brother was up, and I heard on the TV a TV show, movie. I didn't know what it was. It was just people singing on TV. I'm like, what the heck? Who's watching this? So I get up, and it was my little brother, Michael. Shout out to Mike. He loves the movie, too. We actually saw Pitch Perfect 2 together in the theaters, just us two. Not ashamed. We loved it.
You should tell him about this podcast.
Oh, he knows. Trust me.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Anyways, so I start kind of making fun of him. Like, dude, what are you doing watching this? He's like, oh, it's really good. It's kind of funny. And like the first scene I saw was when they were in like the courtyard for like the, joining like a group, whatever group it was.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I see the Adam Devine, who is like the star of Workaholics, making fun of some other guy, and I'm like, oh, that's really funny. And it was just it caught my eyes. I'm like, okay, you caught first impression was good with this, and so I kept watching. I'm like, oh, this is kind of brilliant, it's kind of funny. And then the singing was really good, and I didn't know that guy in Workaholics could sing that well, and he was actually decent. I wouldn't say he was like great, but he
wasn't Zac Efron.
He wasn't Zac Efron, but no one is, right? But he held his own, right? And so that's how it started. My Pitch Perfect crave started was just through that. And
That's a good story.
You got
listen. I started to make fun of my brother. What are you doing? Watching all these dudes sing and these girls sing. Why?
Yeah, but that's how it always starts.
That's how it always starts. You're right. And then it was kind of brilliant. So that's it.
I do think it is just upon rewatch, because like I've watched this before. I think I might have seen this in theaters, and it came out in theaters when I was in high school.
Well, but you have 2 sisters though, right?
Yes, that is true. I don't remember how I got to see it in theaters. It might have been with friends because I was in theater at that point.
And that's why people ask me too. They're like, "You haven't seen it? You're in theater?" I'm like, "Well, this came out when I was in college."
Well, I might have seen it with friends. I might have seen it with my family. I can't remember honestly, but like, I remember. Yeah, I saw it in theaters. I definitely enjoyed it. And I've seen it a few times. But upon this time watching, like I hadn't seen it in probably a couple of years or so. So, and like, even within like the first like minute or so, like it's Elizabeth Banks and I think it's like John Michael Higgins or something that are in the booth and some of their like band going back and forth. I'm just like, these jokes are really funny.
They're good.
I think it, and like just through the whole movie, I couldn't help but think, I'm just like this, like as far as like, at least as far as like dialogue goes, it's incredibly well written. Like the jokes are clever.
So okay. I will admit, I thought some of their roasting was really good from the booth, but then like it gets really weird.
It does get very strange.
It's like, why is she talking?
You know,
I'm just laughing.
Brian,
it was just like super awkward. And I'm like, yeah, nope, that did not.
I'm just really glad that I made Seth and John watch this movie now.
I'm gonna take a moment.
I am too.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a moment to cover some of my tragic backstory. Not all that tragic. I was introduced to acapella for the first. I'd like heard barbershop before. I was introduced to acapella because one of my sisters. I think Sarah, shout out Sarah, she was touring a university called Truman University, which is in Kirksville, Missouri. It's like a smaller town university, but they had their a cappella group. I don't know if it's still true, but at the time it's called The True Men from Truman University, which I think was pretty
That's
cool.
really, that's clever.
They had a performance and they were also selling their self-titled CDs. And we bought one and that became like a staple of our family for like a couple of years at least. And then from there, Sarah actually ended up marrying someone who my brother-in-law is from the SLU group called Bare Naked Statues, which is an allusion to the fact that they have basically nude statues on their campus, like artistic statues. And so they like, I've heard a lot of these collegiate a cappella groups and there's some incredible stuff. And I got to say, for the most part, pretty much all the performances in the movie, fantastic. They're great. To me, it rang like, it kind of read like there was a bunch of a cappella music videos, which I think is really where the focus of the production went, was to make these as good as possible, these performances. The rest of the story, you know, I'll just say these 2 points. About a quarter of the way through the movie, I asked John how much time was left. And our viewing, we were most of the way through the movie. We actually had commercial breaks as a part of our thing, because we were doing like YouTube TV. And on the last commercial break, I had this weird feeling. I turned to John and I said, John, these commercials are just like refreshing. Like it was like you had the whole movie and then like the commercials happened and I could breathe again. And it's not because the commercial was for like nasal strips or allergy medicine. It was just like, I don't know.
Seth, did you like this movie?
Yeah, I think that's what he's getting.
I had a fever.
Listen,
I
no
had
chaser.
a feverish sleep. Like I couldn't even sleep that night because I had to write. I was writing notes. I was up to like 1:30 a.m. writing notes, getting my synopsis, handcrafting my synopsis.
Seth.
And I don't think you understand. I was shooketh. This movie rattled me to my core.
So it's a great choice to go through.
Yes, it's a great choice to talk about.
Four grown men talking about Pitch Perfect.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good.
This is a fantastic.
I will say, like,
thank you, Seth. That means a lot coming from Seth. That means a lot because I was getting ready for him to be like, I'm just like, he was building this thing up to be like, why are we talking about this?
Well, he did say Aka why.
Yeah.
Well, you had a great answer too.
But in all fairness, he was like, why? Like, I would ask myself that too. So I don't blame him at all. I was prepared for it. I knew that was coming. So it's a fair question. Mm-hmm. But I was like, Seth was building this up to where it's like, piece of crap movie. Why are we even talking about this? And he did. He's like, no, this is a great choice to talk about.
I want to be clear. It's a crap movie.
I knew that was coming.
Okay, fair enough. But at least you said it's a good choice to talk about.
I will say there are elements of it that I really appreciate. There are definitely things about it I find funny. I know, like, I actually have a list here of highlights. It's a short list, but it's a list. And one of them is like Lily, the quiet girl. She has a line in here where she quietly says, "I set fires to feel joy," and I started cackling.
I can admit there was definitely certain points like I think he laughed at most of Fat Amy's lines.
Yeah, it was.
But
Because Fat Amy is the goat of the movie.
Yes,
I
she's
hard
definitely
disagree. No.
all right.
Fighting words.
No.
But
It's got to be a troublemaker. At least one of those guys. It's either Bumper.
Yep.
Or this is my dark horse it's unpredictable. Donald, Bumper's like right hand.
Oh,
man
yeah.
from the movie. He like does like all the like most of the rapping of the.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
He's phenomenal, and it's very unfortunate that they didn't put him into the second and third one because I thought
He wasn't in
stole
the
the show.
He wasn't in the sequels.
No, and they should
Oh.
because I thought he was definitely the best performer of all of them by far.
His
that was a big miss.
his performance was really good. I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
So you're going okay. I think you're kind of going more so on like the performance side. It's like we were kind of saying like the comedy side.
As far as the
Yeah.
comedy goes,
But-
fat
enough.
you can't get funnier than Fat Amy.
There's so many quotes from her that are
I'm
actually really
horizontal
funny.
running.
Yeah, there were some great lines, and it mostly comes from the fact that her character just kind of owns how she is.
Yeah.
And it's still maybe not a healthy approach to it because I'm not really sure that that's akin to loving herself. But she
Yeah,
certainly
but-
doesn't let other people's commentary phase her. And I think just that juxtaposition where she isn't down for all of the BS that's going on in the rest of the group, that is enjoyable. It's genuinely enjoyable to watch.
But I love like even from like the get go of introducing herself.
I was gonna bring that up.
like right away. You're just like, oh, okay.
Yes.
She
Like,
she owns it. Okay.
even Aubrey was just like, "You call yourself Fat Amy?"
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And she's just like, yeah, don't care. Well, and of course, her response is essentially akin to like, if I call myself that, then people don't have to do it behind my back.
Yeah.
It's again, maybe not the healthiest approach mentally, but certainly one that is like an antidote to the usual stuff.
Exactly. It's something different of how to approach kind of her,
Situation.
Which her situation.
I will admit, like, watching this movie with Seth was a very unique experience.
You know,
I kind of wish I watched it with you guys.
I would say, like,
Me too.
I think it would be very different if I watched it with like you, but it's like, because like neither of us had seen it before, and we just started, and I'm just like, I go into it like, because I said some of the quotes from Fat Amy. To Seth, because like I actually thought they were kind of funny. And it's like it's really weird out of context. Some of these lines, they make a lot more sense in the movie. But what I was getting at was like pretty much from the get go, it's just like Seth basically hated this movie.
Now,
like the very
maybe-
beginning. And I was just like, I get it. And it's funny just to like, I would literally, something would happen that'd be super awkward. And I would just look over and see like what Seth's reaction was.
you know,
So it made it like more enjoyable in a way.
I definitely needed a drink to get through. I made an old fashioned, like a strong old fashioned. And I sat through and I kind of like started to enjoy my time by the end. But I think there's one aspect of it is like I'm fresh enough out of college. Weirdly, now I've actually been out of college almost longer than I've been in college, which is
That's a weird thought.
probably for the better. But I can't tell if it's because I'm like projecting and I feel embarrassed about what that weird time of life where you spend 4 years in an all expenses paid resort where you try to learn. And I didn't do a lot of partying or anything personally, but I also know that happened. And so it's, I don't know, maybe I just feel like secondhand embarrassment from the whole experience, but like,
I will say, like, for me, I don't think this is like my favorite genre of movies because like, I feel like maybe it's just been like scarred from like there being like so many movies that are like this that are like in college that are extremely crude and very crass. Like it's just like, and I'm just like, I just kind of like veer away from them in general.
Maybe that's the most difficult part of it. And like I have a whole list of like notes here. I hope you realize.
Well, you should let get to that. But John, I totally hear you, and I kind of agree with you about as far as like high school, college movie, that whole stereotype. Get it? I just like the twist with the acapella and that banter.
Yeah.
Because it's like
I would agree that is
like,
an enjoyable
it just
part.
added that little twist to it of like kind of the having that rivalry in an acapella.
Yeah, it's funny though.
It's kind of funny
Because especially like the awkward like Star Wars roommate, right? That has like all the,
Oh yeah.
So like he goes
That
into
guy,
it.
that guy is me on a whole new level.
But like that character, he's like, oh, like I know like this group and that group and this group, like at the college, and he's like, yeah, I mean, I know we're not like normally cool, but like in this school, like acapella is like it's the cool thing. Yeah. It's like I don't know how realistic that is.
No, that I don't think. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I like when he said that. I'm just like, I don't think that's the case.
But they're setting it up for like what the whole movie is of. It's like, yeah, it's similar to like rival sports, but it's like acapella in this. Yeah,
You know, as someone that went to a school that didn't have like D1 sports teams or anything like that. Like sports were a thing that you did if you really wanted to do them. You weren't getting a huge scholarship to do so. And so I feel like in an environment like that, a cappella could very well be the coolest thing on campus. Like it could be a popular event. So that whole setting is not actually unrealistic.
Yeah. Also, like, I mean, I come from like being in choir and theater and stuff, but it's like, I feel like a cappella wasn't really big when I was in high school though. Like it was just kind of interesting until like
when
is it big now?
Well, I mean, to a certain extent, there's like
I think it's bigger
the voice
now
off, right?
Because of Pitch Perfect.
Well,
actually, I don't know if I would.
I don't know. Is that the horse before the carriage, or the carriage before the horse, though? Because, like, I mean, maybe it was like a fad that was increasing, and then Pitch Perfect jumped on the wagon.
I definitely
and made it even more
mainstream.
popular. Because, like, I mean, there was a thing like, when did the Pentatonics become big? Because I feel like they're kind of like,
point.
For me, that was like my intro into like, well, I mean, there's always been the barbershop quartet. Like, it's been like forever. Like we had that in like high school too. Like if you wanted to do it, but like it was very niche. And it's like, I mean, it's still kind of niche,
like
but it seems to be more popular.
Like acapella in the style that Pitch Perfect portrayed it, I think was made popular by Pitch Perfect. I feel like that's what Brian was kind of getting at, and I can't really argue
the
with
competitive acapella,
competitiveness.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I can't argue with
choreography. Maybe I don't know. I guess I don't know the acapella world.
Well,
Do they have like all that choreography when they actually compete like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, but show
they
choir
absolutely do.
Show
That's
choir
like-
does that a lot. Too.
That's what.
That's show choir.
That's what show choir is.
Yeah.
But I did find it funny, like the character, the main treble
Bumper.
Well, yeah. It was just funny because like I'd only seen him in like Modern Family, and he's a completely different character.
Actually, I watched Pitch Perfect before Modern Family, and when I watched Modern Family, like he was this good dude. I'm just like, this is jarring. It's kind of like when my first exposure to Woody Harrelson was in the Hunger Games movies. And then I watched him in Cheers. And I was just like, what? Is this the same
that's like
guy?
way different.
Yes.
Way different.
Completely
Black
different
and
kind
white
of
there
character.
for sure.
Yeah, there was certainly a lot of fun to be had in watching this movie. And I think if I didn't already have the background of appreciating acapella and like even collegiate acapella from like a very young age, I probably would have been like 100% against this movie. But I really see why it's appreciated and why people really like it, because the performances are really fantastic.
The soundtrack is really good.
Yeah. One thing that I find interesting is the dynamic of like Aubrey, who is a more classical kind of a cappella person who wants to sort of go in that direction, versus Becca's character, which is very much like, we should be trying new things and going hip, and that's what's going to win us, right? Win us a competition. And I find it interesting that the Aubrey has not recognized the meta shift, if I'm going to use like a video game term, like the shift in the meta of like what is actually working for these kinds of groups. So I thought that was really interesting. I thought their dynamics of like contrasting, and especially the group sort of starting to come around to support Becca, but also she's not formally recognized as the leader. So even when they do kind of support her, it's not really real in that sense, where she improvises and adds a set, and the rest of the crew are basically like, yeah, it was pretty good, but we just didn't expect it, right? This was you really stepping out of bounds in a sense. So I don't know. I like how it's definitely based off. I think actually it's based off of a book that was written about the writer's
I
experience.
did see that when I was doing my research.
Yeah, it was based off of
It was written off or made off a book.
Yeah,
It's based on a book, yeah.
and the book is written on. It's essentially like a nonfiction about the person's experiences in. Maybe it's a nonfiction, but it's based off of their experiences in college with this environment.
It just does not. It seems like I feel like the plot is very formulaic, like what they were saying, where it's just like, that really surprises me that's based off a book, but I mean, you can also make books formulaic, so
Yeah. Well,
I guess.
the only thing I knew of Pitch Perfect, though, before watching this movie, is there's a clip on YouTube where I guess Snoop Dogg is in a scene where they're recording something. And that's the only clip
sequel,
I
I think.
That's in the second one.
Isn't it in the second
Yeah.
one?
Second one,
Gotcha.
yep.
Because she's working as like basically like a
an
music
intern,
producer, right?
An intern is like a music producer in the second
Gotcha.
one. Yep.
Yeah. And
Okay.
she happens to be doing like a recording with Snoop Dogg or something.
Snoop Dogg's in like Christmas songs.
Yeah. Snoop Dogg in a
seems
Christmas album.
believable.
Oh, man. Getting lit under the mistletoe.
Right?
Wow.
Just, yeah, there's like some, yeah. Actually, this is another aspect is the Breakfast Club is kind of like a recurring reference in the movie. I wouldn't say it's maybe a theme so much as it, well, probably is considering the dynamic between Becca and her father. But in the same vein, I didn't cry watching The Breakfast. I certainly didn't cry at the end.
Well,
didn't
that was
either.
definitely
No,
a comment
same.
that like we were thinking about. Like the end of the movie is not sad.
Yeah, like
what is
she's
she crying about?
It's
Like, is
not
it
like-
more like her just like finally having experienced a full movie? Or what?
Well, I think the way I kind of took that was like, I think yes, there's partly that too, but also like, you know, what she was going through with Jesse, because she knew that's like, oh, like this is Jesse's favorite movie. I'm gonna watch it to the end, and I think she kind of like put herself in his lens and tried and like, I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense, but like, I think she was thinking of him while watching the movie.
Sure. Okay.
That's how I took it.
And that she's like, oh, I missed out.
Kinda. That's the way I took
Yeah,
it too.
Okay.
yeah.
It's like, wow, like this guy really likes me and I'm like pushing him away. I don't know. It's
I don't know if
yeah.
it's possible
Okay.
for the movie to have that kind of subtlety. It's got the subtlety.
here's like
It's
Nick,
got this-
John and I trying to like find like the imagery in a movie and you're like says like, no, definitely not there. There's no way this movie is capable of doing this.
This movie features
Brian, this is-
projectile
so-
vomit.
so-
Brian,
Which
this
is
is pretty
fine.
much how it typically goes.
This is
Wait,
totally
wait.
fine. I don't watch it for like the deep meaning. I'm watching it because I want to laugh and watch some good
Yeah,
singers.
yeah.
Right?
That's fair.
Yeah.
I laughed at the fact that she was crying.
I think
I laughed at her sadness.
That's funny. I kind of did too. Now I'll really laugh next time I see it because of what Seth said.
You're just gonna hear my voice in your head be like, "Nope, doesn't work."
Try not to laugh now at her sadness when you watch that part.
I think you may have gotten at the fundamental difference of why, like, I think you might enjoy the movie, where it's like I think that we don't as much. Is that like I don't know, for some reason when I come to movies, it's like I there is some that are just like so stupid they're funny. I'll admit, like
Spy Kids 3D.
Spike and 3D. But like I think most of the time I approach it in a way of being like, oh, I like really good stories and like really interesting characters and like different things that are going on. And it's really not here. This is not the movie for that.
No, this
And
is a
it's just
movie
like,
where it's just like you want to turn off your brain and you
Yeah.
just want to have a good time.
But,
That's what you do.
but the one thing I will comment, because he said there is projectile vomit in this movie, it's like that part actually legitimately I found disgusting.
Yeah, I did find
You
that
mean-
funny.
you mean what- you
I was
mean
like,
when
this
the-
went too far.
You
Like,
mean when
that is
Lily
not-
was making the vomit angel?
Yeah.
That was
Nope.
I did nearly throw up, but I'm just like at the same time, no other movie has been that ballsy.
So we were like eating popcorn or something, and that part was just like, ugh, okay.
That's one of those parts where it's like really necessary to have that in the movie? Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I agree.
And I find it intriguing because this is also sort of the crux moment where towards the end where they turn around, they sort of reflect and actually talk to each other and try to get to understand each other a little more. And the movie touches with grace, with greatness, just touches it. Because there's a line from Aubrey where she talks about what her father says about.
I wrote
like,
this down actually.
if at first you don't succeed,
See,
pack your bags and
Yep.
head home, right? And to me, I thought we were really gonna like dive into that, and instead it was like every girl giving a one-liner about what motivates them. And
Although I gotta say, when the moment, because one of the running gags in the movie was Fat Amy pegging Cynthia as a lesbian. Like that was something that was going on throughout the whole movie. And when Cynthia stands up and she's like, well, I have something to tell you guys, and Fat Amy's like, she's like, finally she's gonna say it. And then she goes, I have a gambling problem, and she's like, oh. Well, sorry. No, just wait. And then she's like, well, it all started when I broke up with my girlfriend. And then Fat Amy goes, oh, there it is. Which is like, it's a brilliant punchline. And then if you look at the girl sitting next to her, you see the girl sitting next to her is mouthing, I still love you.
Yeah.
If you,
what? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
nope,
remember
not subtle
seeing
enough.
Yeah.
Not so.
Yeah, and I was like, that actually is a pretty good punchline to this joke.
Really.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, this is another note that I have. Like the film, it tries to tackle some real issues, but it also doesn't take itself seriously enough to really have this substance, and maybe it doesn't want to, right? And that's fine. But I feel like there's all of the lines that they gave is like, whoa. There's some stuff under that would be really impactful for us to dive into, but it's not relevant because we want to move on to the next, basically, set piece. We want to move on to the next performance.
It definitely could have benefited from being a few minutes longer for basically that reason.
Yeah, I think we really needed to focus quickly on Aubrey's character to understand her, so that when she does relinquish the leadership, it doesn't feel like this emotional, impulsive snap decision that's brought on by vomiting 3 gallons.
Or forced.
Yeah, or forced, right? So I will say, like, it was so close, for me at least. But
Well, I would say, for instance, you were saying like it could benefit from a few extra minutes. I feel like it could have benefited from editing some stuff out and putting like more.
That-
other
I was
stuff
just
in.
gonna say.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, I was gonna say, Seth, we can get more. I'll reach out to the directors and writers to put a few more extra minutes in. I could use more Pitch Perfect in my life. If that's what you want. By the request of Seth.
I need 2 things. I need another performance of some kind. It can be like a practice performance. I want it
Okay.
because those are great. And 2, just give me a little bit more of the actual like substance behind the character. You have all these actors in the room and actresses. Make them act. Please.
Actually, they're big names. They are. It's not like these are no-name actors in the movie. There's a lot
Dwayne
It's-
"The Rock"
it's
Johnson's a big name, but he doesn't really act.
No, he doesn't. You're right. Not at all.
Adam Sandler, I think, falls under that category too.
Didn't Adam Sandler make Uncut Gems and said if this does not win an
That
Oscar,
is the
I will
exception.
purposefully make the worst movie possible?
That, I believe, is the exception to his resume.
Yeah. I think he actually said on record, if this does not win an Oscar, I will make the worst movie possible.
It can't be worse than The Room.
That's a good point. Well, you mean the greatest movie of our time?
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Room is like
Legendary.
Top tier.
dangerously bad. It's brilliant. Right? I mean, it's atrocious, but that's how brilliant it is.
That's what I'm saying.
There's just so much raw emotion and feeling, and how did he do it?
Tommy Wiseau is like the Elon Musk of filmmaking. I can't tell if he's absolutely brilliant or just
Painfully
crazy.
I think there's a little bit of both.
Well, stupid maybe. Maybe throw in stupid. Yes. I'll just leave it there.
Getting back to something that may be stupid as well. No, I'm just kidding. The movie.
Oh, the movie. Well, you know my thoughts at this point.
Yeah.
I won't read
all know.
But okay. From a person that absolutely loves and knows this movie so much, what on earth was the point of the alumni fight with that?
Yes.
Like that part just seemed like completely out of nowhere, and it's like, what is going on right now?
To have the guy from Scrubs and Charles Boyles from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I knew you were gonna make
Yes.
those. See, I knew both of those characters too, and Seth called it.
They had the weird guy with like the mullet and the mustache, the short fat guy like doing like these weird dances. It was just
well,
It
was
made
another-
no sense.
well, no, it didn't, but it was still funny. I laughed at that part
Someone-
too. I kind of like the way they sing too.
no, someone was doing illegal drugs when they wrote this scene.
Because well, not just the scene, Seth, the entire movie.
Probably.
No. There are the other parts of the movie. I would say maybe just a lot of drinking, but I mean like the illegal stuff for this scene.
Yes, but can I answer why that scene's in there? I will.
Yeah,
I will
yeah.
explain.
Yeah.
to
Please,
you.
I want to know.
I will. Okay, because we're not talking about Bumper enough during this whole podcast. By the way, Bumper is a key part of this whole movie, and they needed him to go on and move on to other movies because there was going to be a sequel and there's going to be a third one. And so they needed him an opportunity to join another group so he could still banter with, the Bard and Bellas. And so he joined the Tone Hangers. Are they the Tone Hangers?
That sounds right.
We're gonna go with that.
So
'cause I can't
that's the
remember.
alumni group that was
That's
there?
the alumni group. And so
Why
then
did he join them? They basically just had a fight.
That's right, he
they
did.
joined him
like-
in the second
true.
in the second
Yes.
movie. They joined him.
Man. Okay,
And then
that's-
they went up against the Green Bay Packers and dominated them
Wait, what?
What?
Oh, and like an
in the
acapella
second one.
competition.
In the second one.
Yeah, they did like a singing competition, and they.
Against the Packers?
I feel like
against
that's
the Green
punching
Bay
low.
Packers.
I feel like that's punching low for an acapella group.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's yeah.
That's like their turf,
Yeah.
right? You get the Green Bay Packers, and the Green Bay's like, we just tackle people
I
and
know,
throw.
we play
pigskin.
good
Yeah.
football. Is
Yeah,
what you're
like,
saying.
They beat up on
I
Clay
won't go that
Matthews.
far.
Hey, how, John?
Hey,
They beat up on Clay Matthews in the second movie. It's
Wait,
incredible.
are you serious?
That's
Oh, yeah.
hilarious.
Oh yeah.
I might have
That's
to look
weird.
that up.
Because they like the movie. Clay Matthews and the Green Bay Packers love Pitch Perfect too. So it's not just us that love the movie, minus Seth.
man, football really did
Weird.
football really did a number on Clay Matthews.
They really did. There you go.
Sorry,
But anyways,
that's punching. That's low hanging fruit. I won't.
so that's why that season, because they needed a reason to bring Bumper back because he is such an integral part of the movie for the second one.
What?
And so he came back.
Okay. That was like
I
the,
made
the
that up, by
weirdest-
the way. I don't really know if that's true or not. It sounds good though.
I believe it.
I mean,
did
that
too,
makes it
honestly.
make more sense because it basically makes no sense.
I want to point out to you some of like the lines that were coming from these guys as they were getting beat up, which were basically akin to "I want to feel something." What? What?
I don't get it.
What? How does
It was
this
like
have
they were like,
any?
they were like trying to relive
when
their.
Boyle's on the floor, he's like, come on, hit me, kick me in the balls. kind of thing. It's
like,
what are you doing, dude?
I just
I don't know. I don't know why they were saying that.
It was so weird.
they
I was
existed
like,
only. They existed only so that Becca could, for whatever reason, feel compelled to like jump in and then accidentally smash a window, and then everyone else runs away, and she doesn't run away, so she gets caught.
Vertical running,
So-
running.
just gonna make the point that like she defended what's the guy? Jesse.
But she
And then-
but she doesn't like Jesse. So I don't know why that
yeah,
she
and at the same time it's like Jesse like defends her honor and then she gets mad at him.
It's like this whole
It's like,
weird
what is
Sam and
going
Diane
on?
thing.
Like, why?
I feel like you guys are starting to make me like be on your Seth's side for not liking this movie the way you guys are talking. It's not going to work because it's all about going into these with expectations. All right?
But-
if you're looking for a Citizen Kane movie, it's not. Don't go in with that. You got to go in with like
I knew
High
it-
School Musical type
Yeah, yeah.
motivation
Look.
here. And
but I will admit like there was definitely like the performances are really good.
Yes.
phenomenal, right?
but
Excellent.
I also thought like I mean I don't like necessarily the subject material, but I did think the like at night pool acapella battle was kind of like an interesting concept.
The riff off is
riff-off,
one of the,
yeah.
that was it. It was the riff off is where they beat the Green Bay Packers. Yeah. In the
That
second
is so
movie.
weird.
Yeah.
that is that the riff off is arguably the best scene in the movie.
You know, I
Arguably.
there's
Well, I mean,
certainly-
besides the fact that like they literally have a category that they're singing about sex.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So it's like,
so the
But-
rated O for offensive. No, so
But
there's
it wasn't. It was A3.
because it's implied. It's not
implied.
They're not actually showing it.
well, but this is like now when you go to a wedding at the wedding reception and they start playing a lot of like these songs that are traditional to play at a wedding, but the lyrics, if you pay attention to them, are
Sketchy.
sketch. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the word, John. But no, I think the riff off, there's some realism to that too. Like if you've got a bunch of very musically proficient people who understand what their part would be anyway, sometimes you can just break out in song. It has happened in my family.
I would say like being involved with choir, you go on like a choir trip. It's like, yeah, no, that definitely happens. People just break out in song. You're like, okay, like I know the song. I can
It's
sing along.
fantastic. I don't know if it's quite that polished.
Yes.
As-
I mean, obviously they're trying to like up the performance of the people.
Yeah, they're like mythologizing this almost. There's like a whole pantheon of acapella. day.
So
So in my research, fun fact here. So the guy that plays Bumper, he's in other shows.
yeah.
This is not his type of movie that he would traditionally do. So it was very odd for me to see that, which is why I was drawn to it too.
Mhm.
But I found out when he auditioned for this role, he initially thought, and I don't know if this is true or not, but he initially thought it was for a baseball movie. And so then when he shows up and they're like, all right, I want you to sing for us, he like make up a song at the top of his, at the top of his head, and he sang, and he wasn't like great, but then they're like, well, he can at least be like the villain of the movie.
And it plays
I don't
too.
know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard. Because this is not his type of movie at all.
Well, and yeah, his character basically just pieces out, right? Like partway through, 'cause he gets some kind of like background
Which is-
singing for whatever.
Which is what that guy would do in real life too.
yeah,
by the way.
he would totally just bounce.
He
Right?
totally would. Yeah.
I will say that like there is slightly redeeming quality of the Troublemakers was the what is the roommate's name? The
Benji?
Star Wars
Benji.
Yeah. Okay. So like I think there was a little bit of redemption with like that character in the sense that like he was initially rejected, but he's like, oh, I'm gonna still try to help out. He's not like he like completely gave up. And because he was still willing to help out once Bumper left, he's just like, they're like, hey, I know somebody who knows all of our music and I can actually sing. I can go get him, like, and help with that.
Well,
So.
I found this actually really interesting because Jesse asks him to join up, and he makes a point to tell him like, look, don't go crazy, right? It's okay to be you, but I think this kind of works when like people get around if they meet a celebrity, right, and they just go nuts.
It's like, don't be you, but don't be you.
Yeah, don't be like the version of you that goes absolutely nuts when you're trying to talk to most celebrities or whatever. When they meet you or you meet them, right? They would much rather you just act like a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
Much rather,
true.
based on what I see, and so it in this sense, I like that he gets to join the group because to me, I was wondering where his character was going the whole movie, and I realize now he's the super fan that actually gets the shot.
Yeah.
And spends most of the movie trying to be like this caricature of himself, and it's just not working. And then finally, they're just like, just know the music, do the music. It's fine to be you. Just don't go crazy.
He got called up in the minor leagues to perform.
Yes.
And he killed it. Which, by the way, I was going to ask you guys, watching the movie, that final performance between the Bart and Bellas and the Troublemakers, I think the Troublemakers had a way better performance, in my opinion.
Wow. You know,
Wow.
I could see that.
But because actually, I've seen this movie plenty of times. Time it. The Bellas got like 4 more minutes of performance than the Troublemakers did. So that's so not fair. So the little time that the Troublemakers got was way better, but the Bellas just had way more time.
So you're saying the story is biased.
Of course it's biased. Of course it is. So we all know. I mean, listen, again, like it's not going to be a surprise outcome that the Bellas are going to win for sure. But it's,
I'm just saying some movies, they don't always win.
I suppose, but this would not be that movie.
Yeah.
Right, Seth?
You know, German cinema. In German cinema,
It's pretty much as far as you can get from
the main characters have a habit of dying. Yeah, that's just like a mainstay of German. It often happens. And actually, if you Rogue One, I'll branch off into Star Wars. The main characters die. And I was like, wow,
Wait, what?
they actually did the thing, right?
Yeah.
So very German of them.
The Empire,
But
basically Nazis.
fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah. So
But anyway, I digress.
yeah. I was just gonna say, like, I would say one of the things is I do appreciate the character of Jesse. I feel like sometimes
Yes.
in like romance movies and stuff, like the guys are very, very, I mean, he's not like the deepest character ever, but you can at least tell he is a good guy at heart. Whereas like sometimes some of the guys in these rom-coms, you're like,
Suspect motives a little bit, right? Yeah.
Well, and I
I actually when watching this, I kind of had the same thought. I'm just like, well, like Jesse's like a genuinely good guy.
The only thing I would say is like he is just like completely, utterly head over heels for the main character. Because he like tries again and again and again and again. It's like at some point, guy, she says no. That's the only thing that I would say is a little weird. But
yeah. Well, and you know, I think a lot of that is just like she grows throughout the movie, learning to be a part of a team. It's not until she finally kind of accepts being a part of the team that she's finally given the freedom to do her thing.
Yeah.
And so he genuinely takes an interest in the things that she's interested in. It's supposed to be kind of a contrast to her father, a foil to her father, who is very like, you know, I guess you can do that. Like, you know, what are you going to move out to LA? Or he keeps like mentioning artists or whatever. You're going to be the next. And then he would say an artist that's not
Like P. Diddy, I think he said.
Yeah, P. Diddy, like,
What's purposely supposed to be like way like
hello, fellow kids, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, Jesse's the obvious like counter to that, where he is this guy who is like genuinely interested in what her passion is. And it's a real, I didn't watch the second movie, but from what I understand, it just didn't carry forward the relationship, which is do they ever, actually, this is a question. Do they ever address it in the next couple movies, or is he just gone?
So they're still together in the second movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's the third movie.
The third movie, they're not, and they address it for like 3 seconds. And then
That's a shame.
I mean, are you surprised though, Seth?
I mean,
I'm not gonna waste valuable time talking about
German cinema.
It's not like this is like
German cinema.
Yeah. German cinema.
Don't give a reason why.
He just died in a car crash.
But in
you
all
know?
fairness, that happened to Bumper too, because Bumper and Fat Amy were together too, and then
That's true, yeah.
They just killed off Bumper,
Yeah.
but not really kill him off. They just, I don't know where Bumper ended up.
Yeah. Well, not in a good place.
He ended up in Berlin, I think. I don't know. Bumper in Berlin.
He ended up in the Tone Angers or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think the Tonators kicked him out or something.
He probably deserved it.
he wasn't getting in enough fights. So, like,
Probably.
No. It's not that he wasn't getting enough fights. It wasn't he wasn't willing enough to get his butt kicked like the other guys were.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just still disappointed they didn't have Donald, the other guy, in the other movies, because Donald, I think, was so good performance-wise.
Yeah, he was really cool.
Yep, Bumper and Donald. Yep.
Yeah.
So
I don't need Donald for much, just in the performances, because he carried it by far.
So I think that was an incredible discussion. I don't know about you guys.
We'll see what the fans think.
We'll see what the fans think. But let's talk about scores. We'll do final. And you get to rank it too. You get to have a score.
Yeah.
I get to rank
Your-
it.
your
what's
score-
the scale.
So your
0 to 100.
0 to 100.
Okay.
Your score.
Stars to rainbows.
Your score gets calculated into the overall Genesius score
Yeah.
for the
Okay.
show. So
Well,
there's power.
So 0 to 100. Nothing's 100, right? Because
no,
given
that's
100.
just- I have definitely given
well, then
100.
the-
if
You
it's
can't
like an
Breakfast Club 100.
absolute
but
masterpiece,
you can't
like,
do that, because what if there's another movie that's better than that and you've already rated 100? You can't, like, nothing's 100.
He's got a good point.
Yeah, but these
So it's been written.
These scores are subjective.
I'm just saying. I mean, what if there's a movie that comes out that's better than that and you've already rated 100? So nothing's 100
You know, I don't.
Unless they're favorites.
except Pitch Perfect.
I don't want to presume.
I was gonna say, like, I would say 100 is like the absolute masterpiece of filmmaking.
Like Red.
Every single in every single way. Like, it has a great plot, it's a great film,
You know,
great.
I don't want to speak for Nick, but I believe in the words of Pontius Pilate. What I have written, I have written. So
and in the words of Kuil, I have spoken.
yes. So he's given the Breakfast Club 100. It is set.
I
It's
did not
done.
give the Breakfast Club
Wait,
100.
What did you give 100?
No, he said red.
Red.
Red. Oh, okay. My fault. That's
Yeah,
actually much
yeah,
more deserving.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
There we go. All right. So,
Okay, Brian, have you watched Red?
I have not. No.
Oh, you should. It's a masterpiece.
I mean, if it's 100, it's got to be the best movie of all time
according
in
to
the
this.
history of the world, in the history of the stratosphere.
I want to say it is one of the last great action movies from Bruce Willis.
It really
Saying
is.
a lot.
Yeah.
Saying a lot.
Yeah.
It's another movie that like you will just have a blast watching it, and it's star-studded.
yeah.
Go in with different expectations than Pitch Perfect, though, probably.
Yes.
It's a little
Yeah.
different.
Absolutely.
There will,
Little
there will be
different
no
setting, I
acapella
would say.
performances. But you've got Bruce
Shucks.
Willis, Helen Mirren, John Malkovich,
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. There's a couple others in there.
It's an all-star cast.
It is an all-star cast.
Wow.
They've got a lot of people.
Yeah.
Very good.
They're basically playing a bunch of old retired spec ops agents, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. Would recommend.
The episode that we made for the podcast was longer than the movie.
Well, that's,
Like this podcast is gonna be longer than the movie too.
well,
Pitch
but that's
Perfect.
because we quoted the entire
We
movie.
basically quoted the.
Yeah.
We were
It's
doing
so-
synopses
it's so
differently.
cool.
You don't
It's
even have
so
to watch
quotable.
the movie. Just listen to the podcast.
It's so
I might.
quotable. No, watch the movie. There's the airport fight alone is worth the movie watching.
You smell like Washington. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my rating for
Yeah.
Pitch Perfect.
Yeah, let's let Brian rate it
one
first.
to
You can
100.
start.
1 to 100.
I start. Okay. I mean, it's
Otherwise, like one of us can go.
You could talk it out. You know.
Yeah. You can always talk it out and build us up.
I explain a little
because
bit.
here's
and
the
then
thing. I
give
mean,
it,
there's
yeah.
definitely movies that are better than it, but again, it's all about how you approach the movie and the expectations. So
yeah, Seth.
I mean, yeah, Seth, take some lessons from this podcast. I would say
No comment. Oh wait, no, hold on.
You are an old man and a fool.
I am probably the oldest one here. Actually, I know we didn't completely determine that, but I probably am.
No, John's the oldest person.
John's still the old fart.
I'm just
say
always
nothing.
the oldest.
Say
John's the old
person.
fart. John's the old fart.
John's the old fart.
Okay, we'll give it an 87.
87.
Okay.
Goodness gracious.
Oh yeah. Listen, I'm not that far off from
Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes. True.
Yeah.
So I'm not the only. Listen, a lot of people out there, Seth, think like me.
You're speaking for the people.
I am.
Do you know Thor came out? We just did Thor, which will get posted next week for our listeners. And that had an average score of what? Like, can I spoil it? Is that okay?
No.
Okay, I won't say anything.
We'll tell you off camera.
It was between 0 and 100.
Yes.
So
It was an irrational number.
that's what Incredible Hulk was, thanks to your stupid gimmick.
Oh, so good.
Add that to the bingo board, Rochelle.
Seth gives a decimal score. Yeah, okay, what's your score, Nick?
This is Brian, I'm gonna surprise you a little bit because I actually gave it a higher score.
ooh,
I gave it a 92.
Boom.
a 92.
92.
Boom.
I do
Although,
really.
although you've
goodness.
given out hundreds though, so I don't know.
You haven't watched Red.
I feel like I have no idea sometimes with
92.
like all I know is
I-
that Nick's is probably going to be higher than Seth's for like most movies. That's all
it's
I
true.
know.
I believe that.
I
I
take
believe that.
entertainment into account. Seth, I don't know if he does that.
There's
Although
so many factors. Yeah.
Seth
I-
took in entertainment for our Princess Bride episode and actually gave a higher score than he meant to, which was amazing.
Yes. But that's only because Westley was a prophet.
So my 92 comes from like I said, I do really enjoy this movie. I love the soundtrack. Like the soundtrack is one of the greatest things about it for sure. And I do think there is value. Like I personally connect, like even though they didn't dive deep into the whole like opening up thing as much as they could have, I still personally was able to connect with that. And just, yeah, I mean, just this watching it this time around was a different experience because like there were a lot of things that I'm just like, oh, like, yeah, like I can actually kind of connect with this a little bit. And I mean, there's a lot I could say, but I'll just cap it off with, again, Fat Amy is the GOAT. Unquestionably. I will.
It is questionable, but yes.
I will. I will
lot of
die
people
on a. I will die on a rock making that statement.
I'm a bumper guy personally, so.
You know, John, what's your score? I need another minute.
Oh man, I was gonna wait for yours.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I'll speak. You know, I widely regard the Hobbit trilogy as some of the worst films ever made.
Really?
And Spy Kids.
He has ranted about this before.
So he's changed from Last Jedi to saying that.
I can't rag on The Last Jedi anymore because
You've already lied to me once.
yes, I've already broken I broke my promise to him before I even made it. Actually, if we talk about like release order of the podcast,
It's true.
yes. So it's better than the Hobbit trilogy. How high did I rank Spy Kids 3D?
I think it's probably in the 40s.
In the 40s?
Probably in the 40s.
Can we check that?
Yeah, let me check.
Do a fact check. You know, there's something that I really appreciate about this movie, and it's the performances. It makes really great performances.
Seth gave it a
clips.
30.
I gave it a 30 for Spy Kids 3D.
Yes.
You know, while I enjoyed Spy Kids 3D more than this movie,
Oh no.
that's probably because of childhood nostalgia.
Oh no.
So I would say, don't get ahead of me. I would say 62.
That's more generous than I was
Yes.
expecting.
I'll take
Wow.
that.
62.
This-
There's some
I
good
think
material.
he changed. Like I think his night of what did you call it?
It was a fever dream.
I
The
think I've
fever
influenced
dream.
him. Just in this hour and 10 minutes we've been talking, I think I influenced
Look,
Seth.
I had to-
He had
the
it probably
thing
at
is, like,
30, and now he's at a 62.
Look, I had to.
I swear, at the first like 30 minutes of watching this movie, he probably would have given it like a 5.
I will have
That's
you.
that's what Megan gave the Princess Bride, by the way.
A 5?
Yes.
Wasn't that her choice to talk about?
No, that was no.
It's because
We
she
asked her.
hates it.
We asked her to come on and tell the world why she thinks it's a bad movie.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
You should, yeah. That's a good episode. You should check that one out.
I will.
You know, and it's I honestly I talked to my therapist about this movie.
Whoa.
If I'm being honest.
This was a good movie to talk about and to watch. I don't know.
He might have
this.
PTSD from this.
I don't
movie.
know.
Very few movies make me rethink my life. One of them was Denis Villeneuve's Arrival.
What?
One of them was Inside Out. Also,
Ooh,
The
Inside Out,
Incredibles.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's some
that's one we
great-
should talk about.
Great films. This is not one of them. But it does some things very well. And I think, if anything, the 62 is for Lily's line of, I set fires to feel joy. There are some parts of this movie that are absolutely correct. I would say half of the comedy is pretty good. The performances are amazing. Jesse's unusual amount of emotional intelligence is fantastic. Yeah, I'll just leave it there.
That's high praise
Yeah.
coming from you.
Yeah.
I just try to rate not just on how I enjoy, but what I think the merits of the film are from a production standpoint. And I think this had better music production than The Greatest Showman.
Whoa.
I agree with him,
What?
actually.
Whoa.
I
That's-
100%
I don't know if I would
agree.
say that.
100% agree.
I'll take that. 100%.
Wow.
Agreed.
There we go. Yeah. He used his token. That's good. They tend to touch the
Jesse
soundboard.
is quite a character, though. I think he might be the MVP of the whole movie. The way we're talking about.
I also can't argue with that.
Well, here's the thing, though, because Nick, you said he is a genuinely nice guy, and like most people,
I said genuinely good guy.
good guy.
But
nice
yes,
guy,
he is a
good
nice guy too.
Nice guy, good
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Both. Okay. What's his roommate's name again? Benji.
Benji.
Most people, when they see how weird Benji is at first, would be like, "Get away from this guy," but not him. He took him under his wing in a way and said, "We got a spot for you." So I think that just shows how like he is a caring guy for everyone.
Jesse is the kind of guy I try to aspire to be. Benji is a guy I feel like I might actually be.
I'm probably closer to Benji. I'm just
That's believable.
Yeah.
no.
I still love you, Seth.
Thanks, man. That means a lot.
Well, I still
right.
have to give my
John,
score.
John,
It's up to John.
So
Listen,
the,
I'm
the
pumped for
difference
this,
is
too.
between me and Seth is that I think we flip it a little bit. I think you put like how the movie film wise, and then like how you enjoy the film. Whereas I feel like I enjoy it, but I also consider how it was filmed.
That's how I score too.
Yeah. So I
Wait,
I feel like I'm kind of like in the middle of you
Wait,
two.
what'd you say?
So sorry. So I feel like initially for my score, I think about like how I enjoy it.
Yes.
And then I evaluate a little bit based on like
Okay.
what
yes.
I thought the quality of the film.
I just wanted to make sure I was on the right wavelength.
Yeah. So that being said,
Oh jeez.
Is he gonna rate this lower than me?
This will be a podcast first.
Is Seth usually the lowest rated person? on-
Usually,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
I believe
for
that.
me, like
He's the biggest critic here.
I'm usually the
definitely-
highest rated.
I believe that too.
Okay. So I will admit, I do think it was filmed better than Spy Kids 3D.
Well,
there's definitely
most are
some things
filmed
like the
better than
performance,
Spy Kids 3D.
and that's something that has like adjusted my score a little bit of like how I would say I enjoy it. The thing is, like, I've also come from like, I feel like I've watched some of the voice off, I've watched Glee, I've watched things that are like similar that I feel like I've enjoyed more than I enjoyed this film.
Glee is not great.
But
The music's really good, but
Yeah,
the show
but-
itself is not great.
for instance, I feel like this rags to riches, right? Like trying to get
Sure.
a band together, compete or like make a great performance. I think I enjoy Sister Act more. So like if there was any
That's
case of like
fair.
I feel like watching this movie, I feel like I would instead watch Sister Act. And to me, it's like that's kind of like weighs on it where it's like anyway. My final score, I feel like is gonna be a first, like Nikki said. 58.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my holy
Just because
Oh.
I'm going to put in, there's points where I just like, I don't really appreciate like awkward humor as much. So it's like, there's some of the points where it's like the announcers, I'm just like, I'm really just like cringing. And there's parts of like the projectile vomit. I'm like, I literally don't even want to watch this right now. So it's like that stuff kind of like affected my score, I feel like.
Wow.
But I
fair
will
enough.
admit, it bumped up from where it was because of the performances. And I do think of Jesse's character. So it's like,
that
Yes.
this is
Even
a
though
Genesius first. John
Yeah.
gave the lowest score on the show.
yeah.
I think that deserves some applause here.
Yeah.
But
All right, that's enough.
it's still above 50. I did enjoy parts of it. And
All
I do
right,
think it's
Listen, I'll
like,
take
yeah.
that.
So when adding these four together, it almost added up to 300 exactly.
Wow.
But it
weird.
came out to 299 divided by 4 comes out to a 74.75, which rounds up to a 75.
Wow.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I can.
Makes sense. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we're not far.
I mean,
we're not
I-
far off from Rotten Tomatoes.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah. I can't believe Rotten Tomatoes ranked it that high.
I totally can believe that.
I can too.
I think there is a lot of people that this is like their first introduction to like acapella stuff, and it was like blew their mind.
Yeah,
Kinda.
definitely turned it into
I-
a fad
yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure.
It did.
And I think maybe it's just that like I'm kind of coming after the fad as well, where it's just like
Yeah, I mean, my acapella phase came and went, and I still enjoy. Actually, my brother will still occasionally send me like acapella tunes that he picks up from various groups, and there's one that I tend to listen to a lot right now. So I still got it a little bit. I still appreciate it, and I think that's why my score went where it was.
I think also like I'll just make a small note of like I think in general I like musicals versus like movies about music, if that makes sense.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Well, because the music in a musical, right? The music can facilitate character growth.
Yeah,
in a way.
exactly. Yeah.
Like the closest thing you get to that in this movie, right, is you generally see where all the characters are at based on their chemistry during the performance. Like they make a point to focus on that. So, you say tomato, I say bourbon and Coke. I'll freely admit I ripped that right off of Drew Carey from Whose Line Is It Anyway? But
not a bad thing to rip something off from.
yeah, it's hilarious.
But
Yes, that is fantastic.
All right.
Great
75.
Great chat. Thank you, Brian, so
Yeah,
much for
This is
suggesting.
it. I got through it.
Honestly,
Yeah.
You
this
did.
is-
well, we
That's
just have
pretty
to
good.
wrap up.
But you have to wrap. But
That's-
I mean, like, I was like nervous about like dead air. I was getting ready to just like comment.
No.
Here's some dead air, guys.
Don't expect that
But
with
there wasn't
us.
any of that.
This is
Nothing.
honestly
zero.
So
nothing.
you will
Whoa.
come. So you'll come back, right?
Am I allowed to come back?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
we
Of
could.
course.
Pitch Perfect too.
Yeah. Yes.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
I will be.
I've heard
let's
they go
discuss.
downhill from the first one.
That's
so-
it's all see.
Basically,
the
any
second one's
guest,
not bad, but
basically
yeah.
any guest who comes on the show is welcome to come back.
The only thing is,
You're just saying that.
No, I'm completely serious.
I would love to come back. We'll discuss.
We would love to have you back.
It's gonna be awesome.
but I would say it might be slightly twisted just because the Green Bay Packers are in the sequel, is what you say.
Spoiler alert.
We almost threw away John's Green Bay Packers mug.
I'm
Rightfully
from
so.
Wisconsin, okay?
You may not want to watch the second one because they get clobbered by.
No, that's all for that's all the more reason he should watch the second
is
one.
true.
He needs to be educated on reality.
Yes, yeah, he does.
but I'm guessing that was like shortly after they won the Super Bowl. Is that why they were?
When did they win the Super Bowl? I mean, it's more recent than the Vikings.
Yes. That's
I mean, you're not wrong.
Roasting your own team.
I'm not a Vikings
But
fan.
hey,
okay.
the comeback games this past season were really fierce. They were epic, but they still haven't won a Super Bowl.
Anyways,
So,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, fantastic. This has actually been one of my favorite episodes to record, honestly.
Agreed.
This has been so much fun.
Wait, where is it?
Yep. Next page. Yeah, there we go.
Agreed.
Yep. All right.
Well, wait.
Yeah, what's
But
up?
there's been a certain thing that we haven't done this episode.
Oh,
Oh.
you're right.
Yeah.
Were there
Right.
any cats in this movie?
No,
Brian, can you remember
unfortunately.
any cats in this movie?
No, I cannot remember any cats.
But
Well, in
I
any
feel like there was some.
No.
I feel like there was some catfighting though.
No.
there was some cat
there was
fighting.
cat
but there-
fighting.
Okay.
Okay.
You have permission. You have permission. Meow. Very good.
So it's something. Yeah. Anyway.
We'll give you the backstory off air.
Sounds good.
I love how a lot of this is just us looking at Brian and be like, we'll explain later. Right?
The whole entire episode was that, pretty much.
Awesome.
Anyway.
Well, thank you, Nick. Thank you, John. Thank you, Brian. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode of the Genesius podcast. If you enjoyed our content and you want to see or hear more from us, please subscribe to our podcast on whatever podcasting platform you use. You can find us on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You might even have video on Spotify soon. I'm going to check it out. Google Podcasts and more. You can also find us on YouTube. Our handle is at Genesius Podcast, where you can see all the shenanigans we get up to, as well as some pretty cool Lego sets here in the studio. Pass it off to Nick. What do you got, Nick?
And if you would like to talk about a movie that you enjoy, or if you, sorry, let me start over. If you would like us to talk about a movie you enjoy, or if some movie related topic you'd like us to discuss here on the Genesius podcast, or if you want to provide feedback to make our show even better, or if you just need us to pray for you in any way and you would like us to pray for you specifically here on the show, send us an email at genesiuspodcast@gmail.com. That's GENESIUS podcast@gmail.com. Additionally, if you'd like to make an appearance on our show as a guest, such as Brian here,
Boom.
make sure you know one of us three personally, and make sure you've listened to an episode of the Genesius podcast and reach out to one of us three directly. So you can, reach out to one of us or send us an email at genesiuspodcast@gmail.com.
Finally, please spread the word about the Genesius podcast, whether it be on social media or word of mouth. If you are listening, turn to whoever you are in proximity to.
Brian, have you ever heard about the Genesius podcast?
I have, yes.
Yeah? What do you know about it?
I know you guys talk about movies, but tell me more.
Yeah, we're three Catholic dudes talk about movies, and
You
we
pretty
have
much got it. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a blast doing it.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah. Or you can shoot a text to all of your friends, family, and coworkers about our podcast, whether it be right at this moment, at a family dinner, at a work meeting, or on date night.
Why?
Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, please tell them about us and please pray for us as we continue to create content and use our gifts to give the glory to God.
All right. Do we have prayer intentions before we sign off here?
I want to pray for all of the musicians in our church, the ones that whose music gives glory to God every mass.
That's a good intention.
All those in the performing arts, especially Catholics who feel challenged by the current state of arts in our culture and who may find it difficult to live out their faith as while they practice the arts. I know we're huge supporters here of Miss the Boat Theater. We've had an actor from Miss the Boat Theater here on the show. So yeah, would like to just pray for all performing artists, especially the musicians.
I'd like to do a prayer, an intention, just for a willingness for all of us to be open to things that might make us uncomfortable, but will ultimately lead us that much closer to God.
John, you got anything? You don't have to, but you can add something if you want.
Brian, you are welcome to as well.
Yes.
Yeah, well, just because we're all, I think we're all part of CSG. CSG registration just went out yesterday. The season's coming up. Let's pray for Catholic softball group, and just for the summer coming up, that it's a good, safe season that glorifies God, and people build in fellowship and have, people they can go to in the future. So
Love it.
yeah.
Who would like to? I could lead us in prayer. Just remind me what your intention was again.
For
Being open to
just a willingness to be
Yes.
open.
All right, yeah. Let's pray. In the name of the Father, and Son, and Holy Spirit. Lord, lift up our hearts to you. We are gathered here in your name today. And we would like to lift up in prayer all of those performing artists, all those musicians, especially the musicians who give glory to God through song at every Mass throughout the world. We also pray that you may open our hearts to embrace the challenges of life, the things that might make us uncomfortable, but we should trust will ultimately bring us closer to you. And we also lift up community, and we pray especially for Catholic softball group as they have opened their signups for this next summer season. We ask that you just watch over the Catholic softball group as we wind up here into this coming year. So we entrust all of these things in your name as we pray, Our Father,
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Saint Genesius,
Pray
for us.
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Seth, thank you for praying for us.
You're welcome.
Brian, thank you for coming on today.
My pleasure. Thank you guys
Yeah,
for having me.
Yeah, you're
It's
welcome
awesome.
to come. You're welcome to come back.
Anytime.
John and Seth, thank you as always for joining me.
Yeah,
Thank you for hosting.
And listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning back in with us. We will be back next Friday at noon with our episode. Actually, I'm sure if you look carefully enough, you might figure out what movie we're going to talk about next week. Although, if you've been following our franchise portion, you probably know it already. But look carefully enough, and
It's there.
it's there. But until then, we are the Genesius guys plus guest. I'm Nick,
Feeling of calm, Seth.
I'm John.
And I'm Brian.
and this is the Genesius podcast. God bless everyone.